What happens when one of the most advanced submarines in the U.S. Navy disappears in peacetime? No battle, no warning, just silence. The USS Scorpion was more than a nuclear submarine, it was a weapon of silent power. And in 1968, it vanished without a trace, triggering one of the most mysterious and unsettling investigations in Cold War history. The Scorpion had just completed a classified patrol in the Mediterranean. She was expected to return to Norfolk, Virginia, with 99 crewmen aboard. Her final message, sent on May 21, gave no hint of danger. It was a routine check-in. No distress call, no damage report, no emergency signal. The U.S. Navy waited. Families waited. And still, there was only silence. The search began immediately. Naval aircraft scoured the ocean. Ships searched along her projected route. Underwater listening networks, including the highly classified SOSUS system, were activated. But the Atlantic remained silent. Experts at the time described the Scorpion as a cornerstone of U.S. deterrence strategy. She was part of the elite skipjack class, a new generation of fast attack submarines designed for speed and agility. According to naval engineers, her design allowed her to dive deeper and maneuver faster than almost anything the Soviets had. But even with all that power, the Scorpion vanished. It took 5 months before the Navy found her deep below the Atlantic, southwest of the Azores. She was found broken in two, lying in silence beneath 10,000 feet of water. But what caused it? That's still debated to this day. Photos showed the submarine's hull crushed and twisted. The bow was buried in the seafloor. Debris was scattered for hundreds of feet. Yet the Navy couldn't pinpoint a clear cause. There were no signs of an external explosion, no confirmed collision, and no evidence of fire. One theory suggests a torpedo had accidentally activated inside the vessel. According to retired naval weapons specialists, the Mark 37 torpedoes carried aboard Scorpion were known to sometimes run hot. If a warhead armed itself inside the tube, the crew would have had less than 30 seconds to respond. Another possibility involved mechanical failure. Despite her speed, the Scorpion had a history of maintenance issues. Months before her final voyage, internal memos warned of electrical problems, failing hydraulics, and questionable safety systems. Some officers believed the submarine wasn't mission-ready but was deployed anyway due to operational pressure. Still, others whispered something darker. Was the Scorpion the victim of Cold War revenge and underwater strike buried by diplomacy? Some in the intelligence community believed the Soviets were involved. Reports at the time hinted that a Soviet submarine may have been shadowing the Scorpion. Military analysts later suggested the loss might have been retaliation for a separate U.S. operation involving the destruction or damaging of a Soviet sub just months earlier. Former CIA officers later said the Soviet Navy had improved tracking capabilities by 1968, especially around the Mediterranean. If they had followed the Scorpion across the Atlantic, an ambush was possible. But no evidence was ever publicly confirmed. No sonar logs released, no Soviet admission. The theory remains just that, a theory. Yet inside the Navy, some believed it, enough that the Scorpion's loss was never fully explained, and some documents were never made public. If it was just an accident, why are parts of the report still classified after 5 decades? In the years that followed, families received vague letters. The Navy's final explanation listed inconclusive mechanical failure, but other internal documents declassified years later revealed conflicting statements, some hinting at torpedo failure, others suggesting possible hostile engagement. Naval investigators reviewing the wreck concluded that a sudden loss of depth control was likely, followed by a rapid descent and implosion. But that still didn't explain the exact cause. To this day, sections of the Scorpion's investigation remain sealed. Some experts argue the Navy may be hiding critical flaws in early nuclear submarine design. Others believe it's about protecting intelligence assets and underwater tracking methods still in use. Either way, the truth is incomplete. And for the 99 families who lost husbands, sons, and fathers, silence remains the only answer. The USS Scorpion was built for stealth and strength. She could reach high speeds underwater, dive deeper than most Soviet counterparts, and was armed with nuclear weapons. She was a symbol of American naval dominance. And yet, she disappeared without a fight. Whether due to accident, failure, or hidden conflict, the loss of the Scorpion reminds us that even the most powerful machines are not immune to silence. In war, heroes are honored. In peace, some are forgotten. But the sea remembers, always. The USS Scorpion wasn't just a ship. She represented a strategic edge in submarine warfare. With her teardrop hull and nuclear propulsion, she could glide beneath the ocean faster and quieter than most adversaries. At over 30 knots submerged, she outpaced Soviet subs of her era, while remaining far less detectable. Naval analysts have long praised the Skipjack class, the line Scorpion belonged to, for being ahead of its time. The compact design and single-shaft propulsion made her incredibly agile. Crews who served on her described the ship as responsive, aggressive, and always mission-ready even when the stakes were highest. Yet despite her strengths, Scorpion had problems, and by 1968, she was showing signs of wear. Just before her final mission, maintenance logs reveal she was overdue for multiple repairs. Her sonar system had been underperforming. A hydraulic oil leak had been reported. A Navy engineering review, years later, quietly admitted that Scorpion had a history of mechanical issues, some of which were never fully addressed. But in the Cold War, readiness mattered more than caution. And so, she sailed. Some retired officers later suggested that Scorpion had been placed on a surveillance task near the Canary Islands, possibly monitoring Soviet naval activity. The Soviets had a major presence in the region at the time, and NATO was watching closely. If Scorpion had encountered a Soviet vessel during this window, even a minor escalation could have ended in tragedy deep underwater, without a single shot ever confirmed. But these are only pieces of a much larger puzzle. Submarine warfare is built on silence. There are no headlines, no footage, just movements, counter-movements, and, sometimes, the sudden absence of a signal. And that's what makes Scorpion's case so haunting. We don't know where she was heading exactly. We don't know what she saw. And whatever happened, whether internal failure or external strike height, happened fast. To this day, the wreck of the USS Scorpion rests quietly on the seafloor. She lies at a depth of nearly 3,000 meters, crushed by the pressure of the deep and sealed by the secrets of her final mission. The nuclear warheads she carried are still there. Some experts worry about long-term environmental risks, though most say the real danger lies not in radiation but in forgotten history.